Welcome to Silicon Valley Successes. Today we have Elisa Chiu, an investor turned entrepreneur who operates at the intersection of tech innovation, cross-border collaboration, and Asian market immersion. She works with top entrepreneurs, professionals, and creatives from Y Combinator, 500 Startups, Warner Brothers, UBS, Deutsche Telecom, Uber, Intel, and such for growth, market entry, and investments in Asia through Anchor Taiwan residency program. So in a moment, we're going to interview her.
Welcome to Silicon Valley Successes. We interview experts and entrepreneurs to give the world access to the knowledge and experience that is here in Silicon Valley. Our mission is to create opportunities for those who seek them and help you to become the next Silicon Valley success.
So Lisa, thank you for being on Silicon Valley Successes.
Thanks for having me.
First question, why Taiwan?
Why Taiwan? A lot of people ask that question. I think it's one of the best kept secrets in Asia.
How
There
so?
are a lot of reasons for entrepreneurs and also investors to look into Taiwan. For number one, a lot of amazing talent, engineers, product designers, basically at a much more affordable rates compared with Silicon Valley. And also two, there are actually a lot of amazing traditional industries that are eager to look forward to working with startup founders with technology. And also it's an amazing base for entrepreneurs to be based at to develop their product and services.
So let's go back. You mentioned so much right there. So first you said it's a little bit more cost effective than Silicon Valley for engineers. Now is that similar to, because Silicon Valley is so expensive, but you have such amazing talent here.
Yes.
Now are you comparing that to maybe other places in the US? Is it even cheaper than, say, Minnesota or North Carolina or New York? Are we comparing it to more prices such as Eastern European, like Ukraine and Russia and that? What's the comparison there?
Good question. I think price is, of course, one of the considerations. I would say compare with Eastern Europe and maybe Southeast Asia, I think Taiwan is definitely very, very competitive. However, I would say other than prices, which I'm actually happy to give you a lot of other reference points when it comes to other actual considerations for entrepreneurs. I
Okay.
think in addition to that, Taiwan is pretty unique in the sense that because of the heritage of Taiwan as a hardware, almost kind of like empire, we have a lot of talents that are able to do things that talents elsewhere cannot do, especially when it comes to hardware software integration.
Interesting. Now let's go back even further. Anchor Taiwan. Tell me about it. What do you guys do?
We do many things, but in particular, we identify and attract top entrepreneurs and tech professionals from around the world. And once we admit them into our program, we find out what they're looking for and we facilitate their Asia market entry. So specifically, we curate and design a 1-month soft landing program, factoring in different activities, company visits, events, trade shows to really facilitate their soft landing in Asia.
So you're saying soft land in Asia. Do you mean soft landing in Taiwan and consider that Asia? Or can they really access a lot of countries in Asia through your program?
Yeah, exactly. So we see Taiwan as a great soft landing pad for the rest of Asia. For one, there have been amazing channels in between Taiwan and China. Basically, a lot of Taiwanese companies and business people have a lot of existing channels that startup founders can actually leverage on when it comes to access into China. And increasingly, there's actually more and more connections in between Taiwan and Southeast Asia as well. So I would say Taiwan, not a huge market, but still an island of 23 million people, so meaningful enough for you to pilot your product or services before you actually enter a much bigger markets. And you can really leverage on a lot of existing channels instead of kind of like going into a deep ocean without knowing how to navigate.
Now these channels, if I'm a startup from Silicon Valley and I've discovered that my product is niche, but it really serves the Asian market, and I want to go to Taiwan and use your product or your service to land there, how open are these people to talking to me and opening up their resources, their channels for my company. I mean, how long does it take to build a relationship there?
Taiwanese people are known to be super friendly. There are
Okay.
actually a lot of articles and actual research statistics around this. And you will know that once you get there. I think a lot of people told me that Taiwan sells itself, especially the people. It's a very, very welcoming and relatively more Western place to do business. So when it comes to IP production, that's a lot better over there as well. I would say in general, through our experiences, so far we have done 6 batches to bring different people over. So through our experiences, the entrepreneurs and tech professionals in our program, they have been very well received, and particularly because through us, kind of like a trusted partners for a lot of different local companies, governments, corporates already, it's even easier for them to really get welcome into the local communities.
Interesting. So you've done 6 batches already.
Yes,
And that's been over how many years?
2 years.
What have been some amazing moments or highlights of these 6 batches?
Oh man, there's so many. Yeah, as you mentioned already, we have got entrepreneurs from YC, 500 startups. We have also got tech executives from some of the top tech companies in the world. I think the best moments were, when they first landed in Taiwan, some of them, it's their first time ever to Asia.
Okay.
So seeing them from being a little bit nervous and not really knowing how to start and how people and communities will receive them, to toward the end of the program, we went through so much together that some of them actually then call Taiwan home or like their second homes. So I think the best moments is really kind of like as a founder, being able to utilize the resources and our connections to really facilitate them, to welcome them into the local communities, because this is really a win-win for both the local communities and also for the members over to Asia.
So you said 1 month program. Tell me about it, because in 1 month, I'm thinking, I can't even think of how many things that could happen in 1 month. How many meetings, how many classes, like what's the structure of it?
Yeah, so as I said, each cohort is designed a little bit differently based on the people in that cohort.
Okay.
So we tend to have a couple of specific focuses in each cohort. So say, for example, if this cohort, we have people more are in AR, VR, then we tend to have more company visits and meetings around that and events around that. So just bear in mind that each cohort is designed a little bit differently. And we have a few broad categories in terms of the curriculums that we have for the 1 month. As you said, 1 month you can really package in a lot of things. So we always start our program with a program orientation, which includes cultural orientation in terms of like how to conduct businesses, cultural and historical background.
So how important is cultural and diversity training in your program?
I'm sorry?
How important is cultural
It's
and diversity
crucial.
training or awareness in your program?
It's really crucial. I believe that it's important no matter where you go, especially when you are conducting international businesses.
Okay.
In Asia particularly, we actually act as that cultural translator. So yeah, a lot of time we basically educate our members in terms of just like nuances that they should be aware of.
Okay.
When we go to the actual business meetings, how do you actually hand over your business cards? Little things like
How
this.
do you hand over your business card?
You use your both hands, but these are like probably even more superficial small things that are still important. A lot of time we go deeper than that to basically share our experiences, and also before we go into the meetings with our understanding with certain partners to share, hey, like they might say this, but don't take this in the wrong way. This is the reason that they say things like this. So because for me, I have a team that are that's very international. We have backgrounds basically both in Taiwan, and also we were educated overseas. So we were able to be that translator to really facilitate that introduction.
So how important is it to have that translator that knows the language and the culture when you have these meetings?
It's really crucial. I'll give you a quick example. So in Asia, and these days increasingly in many parts of the world, governments, they're actually getting more and more involved with startup founders.
Okay.
But a lot of time, the government, people or agencies, they might have good intentions to do certain things, but then there are styles that might be very different from the startup founders.
Okay.
So I remember that one of the cohorts, I brought in this very outstanding entrepreneurs to meet with these government officials.
Okay.
And right away, because the government officials, they are eager to fulfill their KPIs. So right away, they're like, hey, so let's sign this MOU. Pretty much like before.
I love the MOU.
Yeah, it's very
Sign it,
Asian thing,
pictures,
right? Exactly.
more pictures, done,
Press
bye,
release
never
and
see
all
you.
this kind of thing. So not necessarily a bad thing. We just need to let the entrepreneurs know, hey, this is probably going to be what happens.
Yeah.
However, this person is indeed someone who has a lot of resources, who can open a lot of doors for you. So this is the process that are common and usual in Asia. So there's like a lot of this kind of communications that we have to do in advance. And at the same time, we have to tell the government agencies and representatives that we work with as well, to tell them that, hey, I understand you have your KPIs. However, you know, like we should probably have some warm intros before we go into that.
So just for people at home that have no idea about Asian culture, talk a little about the MOUs, because I've been to many sign-ins in my day.
Yeah, MOU basically is a sort of like that very first documentation to start a relationship.
Yeah.
It's actually not unique to Asia, but I think in Asia, that very often gets built into especially government-related KPIs and success metrics. So a lot of time they care a lot in terms of the number of MOUs that they sign and whether one, that's the right KPI. You know, it's up to debate. But I think the key is not to sort of like disregard that 100%, but to understand where that comes from and to really still find the common grounds for different parties to work together.
With that saying, the government plays a huge part in pretty much everything that goes on in a lot of these countries outside of the U.S., even the U.S., but I'd say more in many other countries. What type of resources are there that the government might provide for startups in Taiwan that people here might not know about?
Taiwanese government is actually very friendly, especially when it comes to foreign startups.
Okay.
So there are subsidies both at the local city level and also the central levels for startups itself, and also for R&D and even for angel or early stage investments. If you are an investor looking to invest into startups that are lending in Taiwan or local Taiwanese startups. And in addition to this, they know that basically we have to innovate to stay competitive. So they're also working on changing a lot of regulations to make it a lot easier for entrepreneurs to actually get their visa so that they can soft land a lot easier in Taiwan.
So go back, you said about angel funding. Are you talking about matching funding, or the government has their own venture arm that will make investments themselves? Tell a little bit more about that.
Yeah, a bit of both. So we have our national development councils with a fund. So we do have the equivalent of kind of like the national sovereign funds that act as sometimes LPs for some other venture funds in the world. And at the same time, specifically, now we are at the third phase of a national development council's special projects to encourage early stage investments. So now they used to do grants and matching, and now it's basically more of a co-investment scheme. So if you're an early stage investor, both individual and institutional, if you're interested in investing into Taiwanese startups or international startups looking to soft land in Taiwan, or international startups looking to engage with a team for R&D or engineering in Taiwan, there's actually a good chance for you to benefit from the current scheme.
Seems like there's quite a lot of options for a startup here to get some funding in Taiwan.
There is. However, I would say that in Taiwan, there's no shortage of money. We're still at the early stage of encouraging more old money to be more open-minded into early stage investments. And that's also why the governments, they're trying to really encourage the more traditional LPs to look into this area.
So instead of investing in a factory, invest in this AI
Or real
company or
estates.
blockchain or something like that.
Exactly, yes.
Oh, fascinating. So how about companies from Taiwan coming to Silicon Valley? Do you help with that? And if so, what are some of the resources that are here for them that they might not have in Taiwan or vice versa?
We help, however, that's not our current focus.
Okay.
So we do have a lot of connections here with the local communities, both with the VCs and accelerators. That's why I actually got this kind of request quite a lot. So I do facilitate, especially when the accelerators or VCs, they're bringing their portfolios to Silicon Valley. A lot of time when it's relevant, then I try to connect them with the VCs here that might be interested in investing into some of the companies that are coming over. However, the current focus for us, for Anchor, is really sort of like from Silicon Valley outbound to Asia.
Okay. And then for these companies that go into Asia, how can they ramp up quickly? What are some tips and tricks for landing in a new market and accelerating from day one?
Yeah, that's actually why Taiwan is a great place. Because imagine if you go to Taiwan, as I mentioned, because it's not a huge market. A lot of time, from our experience, it's a lot easier for entrepreneurs to be seen. Because it's 23 million people, and then if you have a decent product or services, it's very easy for you to stand out, to win competition. One of the Anchor alumni, for example, has got into different programs because, especially if you come from the United States, you tend to be better in terms of like presenting yourselves, storytelling, and all that. So a lot of time we see that the Western founders, they actually can get noticed a lot more easily. So that's in terms of like PR, in terms of marketing, a lot of time it's just a big win already from the very beginning. And of course, over there, I think finding the right partners is also very important. And once you are seen, you have that exposure, the resources, investments, and all that tend to come to you.
Now, how do you go about finding the right partner? I know Anchor Taiwan's an amazing resource, but if you weren't there, how would they go about finding it? If you are there, how do they go about finding it?
It's really a lot about people. So that's also why for us, I feel like we're really in the people's business, both in terms of identifying the right entrepreneurs to be in our program, but also in terms of identifying the right partners in Taiwan to work with. So we have spent a lot of time and energy to vet the partners that we work with, and for many of them to actually work with them to find out what are their values, their standards, and all this kind of things, so that when we present them to our members, then hopefully it will save them time, energy, and money for their soft landing. If not through us, then I guess, like put yourself out there, go there, try to go to events when you first land there, meet people with coffee. I think it's probably common when doesn't matter where you go, but you need to really put in that time first, invest in the time and energy to build that relationships, either through us or yourself.
So when you're building these relationships, how are you vetting them to know that they are serious? And what I mean by that the company is not just going to look at these startups and just take meetings, that they actually want to either partner with them or invest with them or actually do something with them other than just a picture.
Because right now, for you mean our local partners in Taiwan, right?
Yes.
We actually care a lot about curating the right parties to meet with each other. So a lot of time, even if they want to meet the people from my program for exposure reason or PR reason, if there's no actual relevancy, I actually don't make that happen, and I will actively discourage that. Because if it's not relevant, I don't want our entrepreneurs to waste their time. So number one, I actually curate the meetings. So when I bring them together, usually there's a very good reason for the local corporates or governments or like our local partners to meet with the particular entrepreneurs that I want them to meet with, either because they're in the same sector with the technology that there's actually a decent possibilities for them to really work together, or for the local corporates to invest into these startups. So because time is really the most valuable asset. So basically, once I have that level of curation, a lot of time they're willing to spend the time to meet with them, because like ultimately, I don't believe in bringing them to meet with partners that are only looking to have that pictures, and then we tend to eliminate this kind of partners throughout our curation process already.
Right. And to find out more information about other resources in the Silicon Valley, please visit our website, siliconvalleysuccesses.com. Visit us on Facebook, YouTube. But back to Lisa. Quick question, or actually, not quick question, I'm loving this. Tell me more about the resources or advice you would give to that early stage company when they want to go into a new market, like their thought process, what they should be thinking of.
I always tell our members during our orientation, one thing very important when you go to a new market, be a giver first. Don't think about go there, oh, I'm gonna kind of like take this and take advantage of this. Of course, there are things outside of your home markets that you can take advantage of. But I always tell our members, no matter how successful you are from Silicon Valley, you are entering a new community. You're entering a new place. So think about what you can give to the community. This can be totally not financially kind of like related. This can be you have expertise about the Silicon Valley ecosystem. That might be valuable for the local entrepreneurs. So that's also why a lot of time we host events to integrate our members with the local communities, for our members to share their expertise with the local young leaders and entrepreneurs.
Do you see that there's a difference maybe in skill set or that between the local people in Taiwan and the people who come from Silicon Valley, or at this point in time, everyone's pretty much on the same level playing field?
I think there's more difference in terms of mentality. Probably not so much in terms of the skill sets. There are like super skillful people and entrepreneurs in Taiwan and across Asia. However, I do still see, even though this is changing, but I do still see the Silicon Valley type of entrepreneurs, they really still tend to dream big. While for entrepreneurs, and this is not 100%, but on average, I would say in Taiwan, a lot of founders and tech professionals, they have amazing technical skills, but then they tend to be more kind of like practical. They're like still more humble, and which is a good thing to a certain extent, but at the same time, it also means that when it comes to building kind of like something that's totally changing the world, I think they're still more conservative.
And so I'm looking at this. So sorry about that. So big picture view. So are you saying it's more like an island view versus like a global view, or?
You can probably say that, yeah. Even though I would say for islanders, I think being adventurous is sort of like also in our DNA, because we have to kind of like get out there for trades, for businesses and all that. And we've been seeing that in our, like generations to generations. However, when it comes to building the startup, the software tech kind of companies, I think increasingly we're seeing that this is changing, because more and more founders that are educated overseas started coming back to bring back this more Western and liberal sort of like mentalities. And I think that will be beneficial to basically combine that with the local very solid sort of like tech capacity. But I do still see founders being more relatively conservative.
Okay, so let's kind of recap everything that we've talked about so far. We've talked about you've had 6 different cohorts over the last couple of years going from here to Taiwan. When they go to Taiwan, they get introductions to corporations, governments, the local entrepreneur ecosystem. Some of the entrepreneurs that come from Silicon Valley might be a little bit more vocal or more comfortable presenting themselves, and we'll get some attention there. It's a small island, 20+ million people, so it's easy to actually really connect with these people that have had years and years experience in Asia, connecting to all those countries there, and it's a great resource for if you want to enter the Asian market. What am I missing that you think people out there should really know about Anchor Taiwan and what you do and how you help these companies?
One thing we're very excited about, and also one of our key new initiatives into 2019, is that in addition to the existing platform and practice of Anchor Taiwan, we're also looking into an early stage funding vehicle. So because now we started seeing companies or individuals through Anchor Taiwan really came back to Taiwan and got subsequent investments or partnerships, which we're very happy about. So we want to be part of that successful journey financially as well. So we are looking to combine with my background in investments.
Tell me about your background a little bit more.
Yeah, so I used to be a hedge fund trader and investor looking at Pan Asia for convertible bond strategy.
Sounds exciting.
So it's like later stage investment, but now I'm actually a lot more excited about working with early stage entrepreneurs and really helping them facilitate their Asia access through Taiwan. So we're looking to identify and unite individuals or institutions that share the same passion for cross-border innovation and to really help these entrepreneurs succeed internationally.
Why did you switch from that old life to this new life? What gave you that spark of enthusiasm?
Yeah, that's like a long story. But to make it short, so I was actually in more traditional finance, high hedge fund life for many, many years in Hong Kong. 2013, I quit my job. I decided that even though I seemingly had a very successful career, I wanted to get closer to the real world. I kind of feel like I was living in a bubble, a very comfortable bubble, granted. However, I was looking to really get more in touch with the real world. So I first went traveling around the world, really learning about the world and also myself, and really it was through a lot of exploration that eventually it came to the conclusion that entrepreneurship and cross-border mission-driven type of endeavors is what I want for the rest of my life, and that's how I made that transition, basically having a base here in Silicon Valley while starting my own venture.
Okay. And Elisa, tell the audience at home, best way to contact you, your best type of client, you know, a little recap on who you are.
Sure. So feel free to check out our website, anchortaiwan.com. In addition to that, we're also pretty active on our social media, Facebook and Instagram. You will find a lot of recaps about the events that we run and also exciting news that you might want to know about in Asia and in Taiwan. For me personally, Elisa at anchortaiwan.com. You can reach me easily over there. We are looking for founders or tech entrepreneurs who are eager to learn about Asia when it comes to the industry access, when it comes to how to best enter that market. And of course, as I mentioned, also people who are interested in being part of this journey to help them succeed as well.
Okay, and then one last question. If you could give any piece of advice for a new entrepreneur, a new startup founder, what would it be? Real quick.
Well, first, as I said, be a giver and be focused on what you're doing, believe in what you do, and just go for it.
Wow. Lisa, thank you for being a guest on our show. And everyone, we welcome you to come back next week. We have an amazing guest, so thank you. Visit our website, siliconvalleysuccesses.com, Facebook, YouTube. All right, thank you.
Thank you from all of us at Silicon Valley Successes. We hope you found the information presented today useful in your path to success. For further information on accessing the resources in Silicon Valley, you may visit us on the web at siliconvalleysuccesses.com, on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you. And remember, we want to help you in your journey to become the next success.